don't get too attached to this Goblin girl because her online comics really put her through the ringer. And I'm not talking the usual Goblin problems where she has to worry about knights cutting her down or wolves attacking. No, her webcomics put her through financial and economic strife. Something that hits a lot closer to home for most of us. And if you think the intricacies of an economic system is a weird topic for an internet comic, then welcome to the club. But Gabital has been doing impressive numbers recently. I guess the old adage is true. If you want people to care about a topic, then turn it into a cute anime girl. Welcome to Zombie Comics. I'm your host Aura, and I appreciate if you choose to distribute the wealth and subscribe and like this video. Or donate to my Ko-fi. I want to keep on bringing you guys content, experimenting with streaming, but I'm gonna need to fund some much overdue upgrades to my equipment. That's the caveat, huh? Everything costs money, even food. Like Gabi's favorite treat, cupcakes. The local baker sells them for 2 coins, so by making 10 coins when she works, she can buy 5 cupcakes. And hey, her boss gave her a raise to 12 coins. Now she can buy 4 cupcakes. Okay, how does that work? Welcome to the beginning of Gabi's disillusionment with capitalism. Gabi is a goblin girl who works at a shop making wooden wheels. It's a humble living, but it pays the bills and affords her some luxuries. Except this fantasy world is entering what we call late-stage capitalism, meaning everything is getting more expensive and wages are not keeping pace. And this makes Gabi cry. This cute, adorable, big-eyed goblin girl is just out here doing her best, and she's getting punished for it simply by living in a society that disadvantages her. Readers unanimously agree that it is not fair and things need to change. For Gabi's sake. And this is how Gabital spawned a fandom of newly converted communists. Okay, well, obviously most of these comments are, as the kids say, for the memes. The comics actually do a really good job of demonstrating different facets of capitalism. That's even the series tagline, economics for the little ones. Okay, I doubt the comic is actually communist propaganda, and I'm not just saying that to cover my ass when my corporate overlords kick down my door for covering a comic criticizing capitalism. People make art to criticize things all the time, so once you look at the original artist's post of these comics, you'll see that... Wait, is this series actually from Russia? Well, I mean, it certainly checks out. So yeah, if you've been enjoying this series in English, you're reading a translated version. The original was done by Timur Bogdanov, also known as DeAronaks and Duende Online, who posted the first issue of Gabital on February 15th, 2024. Though he had been doing drawing streams on his YouTube channel since earlier that same month, featuring sketches of Gabi, the orc salesman, and the chief. Which, can I just say, the chief is both the most infuriating character, but also one of the most enjoyable to see drawn. He's like if Varric from Legend of Korra was a capitalist asshole, and I'm kind of here for it.
Zhu Li, do the thing!
In fact, all of the art in this comic is extremely expressive, and the characters are very consistent. DeAronaks is a really talented artist, but also a pretty clever wordsmith. When you see the title Gabital, you probably think, oh, it's a portmanteau of Gabi and capital, which is technically correct.
The best kind of correct.
But since it's originally written in Russian, it's actually a fusion of Gabi and Gabital. It's wordplay that works in multiple languages, which I think is kinda neat. Every comic entry is named after some different facet of capitalism or economics. Inflation, supply and demand, or planned obsolescence. As for the cast of characters, it's kept pretty tight. Of course, you have Gabi the Goblin, but she's one of the only named characters in the entire series. The orc salesman has only been referred to as that, the orc salesman. He works at the local bakery and is basically in the same position as Gabi, a victim of the system. He's also missing a hand, which has yet to be explained as of making this video, so we don't know the story there. Gabi's boss, the chief, has gotten a little more development. He attended prestigious schools from a young age and was able to learn the best ways to profit in his economy, giving him a huge advantage. He's conniving, greedy, virtually anything just short of murder is justified as long as it turns a profit. Basically, he's like Mr. Krabs. Or Jeff Bezos. Oh, and you can't forget his gold-adorned cat. All the best villains have cats. The High Elf banker is exactly that, a banker who's a High Elf. She's the one who rejected Gabi's loan application, but we actually know a little more about her than that. In a brief flashback, we see her teaching the chief when he was a young boy, alongside another High Elf. Now this could have been her guest teaching the class, or it means she changed careers somewhere along the line from teacher to banker. Also, the fact that she hasn't aged while the chief has fully grown up confirms that High Elves in this world are very long-lived. But then we also can't forget about Falka, since she's one of the few characters DeAronaks has given a name. She's Gabi's coworker, friend, and eventual business partner. Falka and Gabi have a long history attending the same school, even if Falka spent more time leaving marks on faces than on her homework, and even living together, since we can see 2 cots during Gabi's late-night planning. She first appeared in Comic 4, so we know she was working for the chief alongside Gabi, and not among the unemployed goblins he later hired. The original Russian comics grew in popularity rapidly. The community reached 500 strong in 5 days. It broke 1,000 by March 1st, 3,000 by March 18th, 5,000 by April 5th, and 10,000 by June. Imagine starting from an audience of almost 0, posting less than 20 pages of a comic over the course of 4 months, and having an audience of 10,000. And this was before the comic was ever translated beyond Russian. Granted, it's not fair to say that DeAronaks started from complete scratch. He had a couple other webcomics, like Flowers of Fire, that started in November 2020, and takes place in a fantasy world of slime people, flower people, and, hey, big surprise, goblins. Or it was called Chronicles of Stalagnatus. I'm not entirely sure. There's a title here, and I can't read Russian, so my research might be a little bit wonky in this video. I'm doing my best. But people just can't help but be sympathetic for this little goblin girl, because her problems didn't stop at just cupcakes getting more expensive. Gabi is anything but just another cog in the machine. She excelled at school, she's in pretty good standing with the chief, almost seeming like a second in command to him at times, and she has some amazing critical thinking skills. I mean, capitalist things that screw people over on a regular basis are just immediately clear to her. She quickly pieces together the reason cupcake prices are going up. Her boss, the chief, is raising prices on wagon wheels, which the bakery needs to transport ingredients. And why is the chief raising prices? Well, why else? To people like the chief, capitalism is basically a game where the goal is to make the most amount of money at any cost. That's kind of an ironic statement. And Gabi witnesses this in action. He buys out his competitors, sacrifices the quality of his products, lays off his employees, overworks the remaining ones, hires disadvantaged workers for cheap. But that last one is the straw that breaks the camel's back for Gabi, because those workers were goblins like her, who were unemployed because the chief bought out their previous place of work, creating an ironclad cycle of financial abuse the chief can exploit and no one can stop him. But Gabi's certainly going to try. She's going to start her own business, with good equipment and products, good wages, fair treatment for goblins. She's gonna need a lot of money. And this leads us to our first location beyond the wheel shop and bakery, Alpha Bank, an imposing institution for all your fantasy financial needs. Gabi goes to a high elf banker for a loan so she can afford the equipment, space, and workers she needs. Once she makes the money back, she can pay off the loan. Simple. Or it should be. The banker demands collateral, guarantee that they'll get their money back, things that Gabi doesn't have. That's why she needs the loan. And she gets rejected. So her initial plan isn't really working out. Without funds to start a rival business, it'll never get off the ground. So she tries her hand at other tactics, suggesting lowering the price of their overstocked wheels. Cheaper wheels means it's cheaper for the bakery to transport goods, which means cupcake prices will go down too. But that doesn't maximize profits, so the chief shoots the idea down. In fact, none of her ideas go very far with the chief. All the while, Gabi's learning about concepts like shrinkflation, supply and demand, and why her good grades in school don't matter quite as much as the chief's good grades in school because he had an advantage from an early age. These things are painfully frustrating both to Gabi and the reader. But in comic 13, we see that she's definitely learning how to play the capitalism game when Falca remarks that Gabi's late night scheming sounds an awful lot like the Chief. But she still has an uphill climb. If she can't get a loan and she can't buy the equipment with the funds she has right now, she has to take part in probably the single most lucrative scam capitalism has ever conceived: renting. Gabi, along with her new partner in blue-collar crime Falca, rent out the space and equipment from the Chief after hours. Gabi and Falca work their goblin butts off through the night to build the machine they need to start their own business. Things are going great. Even the Chief wants to help out. Wait, that doesn't sound right. The Chief offers to set Gabi up. Using the empty space that was the workshop he bought out earlier in the series, he would buy Gabi's machines and set her up there with her own workers, essentially making her a manager. Falca immediately rejects his offer, but it would solve a lot of Gabi's problems. Though, it would keep her under the Chief's thumb too. Gabi ultimately turns him down. So, Gabi and Falca continue on the hard road, securing materials from... Is that Bilbo Baggins?
Bilbo Baggins.
Finally, they're able to open their own workshop. But the Chief has other ideas. This was the 21st comic of Gabital, posted on June 10th, 2024. Readers numbered more than 10,000, but it was still limited to an audience that could read Russian or took the time to try deciphering it with Google Translate, which isn't an ideal option. Today we're going to be translating Gabital number 21, Productive Forces. And if we go up to the first panel here, Gabi says, room, and then Falca says, eat. And then we go up to the next panel, Gabi says machine and tools, and Falca says, eat. Luckily, Gabital was about to go worldwide. DeAronaks made a post asking for translators, and people leapt at this call. Literally the next day, DeAronaks announced that Gabital would be translated into French, German, Japanese, Chinese, Dutch, Polish, Kazakh, Esperanto, and the reason it came to my attention at all, English. If you've been following the English translation on Reddit, then you've been reading the post from user Holy Sheep It's Dark. I reached out to them to ask a few questions about their involvement with the series, and they said originally they were a fan of the series just like anyone else. After getting permission, they went ahead and started translating. Though Sheep isn't exactly part of an elite team of translators or anything, they said they mostly operate on their own. On Monday, May 20th, 2024, Sheep uploaded the first English translated comic of Gabital to both our comics and our webcomics, and it immediately did extremely well, netting 14,000 upvotes. On r/webcomics at least. Yeah, randomly, Gabital doesn't perform very well on our comics, which is the bigger sharing platform between the two subreddits. It's broken 10,000 upvotes on more than one or two occasions on our webcomics, but it rarely even hit 150 upvotes on our comics. Eventually, after Gabital number 5, Sheep stopped posting them to our comics because, well, what's the point?
What's the point?
And this is just the beginning of Gabital. Everything I've went over so far is like the first arc of the story. Now that Gabi and Falca have their own competitor business open, they face a whole slew of new problems. The Chief is as confident as ever. He's the established wheel manufacturer, a trusted brand, so to speak, even if he's conducting some shady business practices for the sake of profit. But people are invested, no pun intended. Economies are intricate things, and Gabi has barely scratched the surface of her fantasy capitalist system. Though, with Falca by her side, things might just turn out okay for Gabi in the end. So, with that, I'm Aura, and...
FBI, open up!
Oh shit, I knew this would happen. I made fun of capitalism. Tell my story, eat the rich!